After meeting with Juan Soto this weekend, are the New York Mets the favorites to land him in free agency? We'll talk about it on today's show.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on X at FinkelsteinRyan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Now, it's funny, when I talked about Juan Soto's free agency a couple weeks back, at some point, I know I did a show where I was just setting the stage for the offseason. I said at some point, Juan Soto will meet with the New York Mets, and Jon Heyman will write a story about it in the New York Post because he is Scott Boras's mouthpiece. Sure enough, over the weekend, the New York Mets met with Juan Soto, and we get this exclusive in the New York Post. Steve Cohen, Mets, have very detailed meeting with Juan Soto in California, which leads me to what I like to call reading, because that's what we're going to do on the show today. We're going to read directly from Scott Boras's mouthpiece, Jon Heyman, in the New York Post. These stories have been published quite literally for decades. And the reason why I want to read some of the details here is because it follows all the same beats. What is Jon Heyman aiming to do for Scott Boras? Setting the stage for Juan Soto, putting the pertinent details out there. This is going to go out. All the teams who are interested are going to be reading this. What happened in this meeting with the Mets? But they're not going to give away too much because they don't want to alienate the Mets who are bidding. It's just to try to bring up a market that probably doesn't even need this type of a story to draw any extra intrigue. I don't think this accomplishes anything but add that intrigue, add that news value, add that sort of spotlight to a free agent who is supposed to own this offseason. So let's read for a second here. Here's how Jon Heyman opens up his piece. Mets owner Steve Cohen led a contingent of high-ranking club officials to meet with coveted free agent superstar Juan Soto on Saturday in Orange County, California, the Post has learned. All signs suggest the meeting went extremely well, and the Mets are viewed as one of the favorites for the services of the 26-year-old Soto, who helped the Yankees reach the World Series in his initial season in the Bronx in 2024, and is the top winner priority for both New York teams. Word is the Mets presentation was, quote, a big production and very detailed. Now, all of this is just, again, putting that spotlight on Soto and hyping up this free agency. He's 26 years old. You put it right there in the second paragraph. Just led the Yankees to the World Series. It's right there. Top priority for both New York teams. Bidding war, Yankees, Mets. All of this is to try to drive the price, try to drive the price. Will that work? Right? Because these initial meetings, they're not about how much money is Juan Soto going to make. They're about selling Juan Soto on the team. But ultimately, it's going to come down to dollar and cents. And these different front offices are going to have to put their heads together and put a first offer in front of Juan Soto at some point. And then if they're competitive, if they're in the range of what they're looking for, then the bidding starts and you see how far the prices really get driven up. But this is all just an aim to, for one, add the attention, put some details out there, get Mets fans excited, get Yankees fans nervous. But again, it doesn't really mean much. Going through the story a little bit more, sources say Mets baseball president David Stearns and manager Carlos Mendoza joined Cohen for the California confab and are also said to have made a positive impression. Would they have said anything else? I mean, would Scott Boras have told Jon Heyman, yeah, Juan Soto actually hates Carlos Mendoza? Of course not. Of course not. So, yes, made a positive impression. Sure. And that could be true. You know, Scott Boras very well could have told John Heyman, yes, they made a positive impression. What's going to make the best impression is the money. And here's where you get to that right here in the piece. It isn't known whether official offers are being made at meetings this week, but it is all but certain the slugger will set the record for contract value currently held by Dodger superstar Shohei Ohtani. His historically deferred $700 million deal is valued somewhere between $437 million, $470 million. Soto's deal could reach $600 million or possibly even a non-deferred $700 million. That right there is the asking price. Scott Boras is saying beat Ohtani. And they're not just saying, they're not asking, they are telling you. They are telling these teams, you will beat Shohei Ohtani's deal. This will be the richest contract ever given to a player. And because Juan Soto is 26 years old, it should be. It should be. Even on the high end of the present day value for Shohei Ohtani, $470 million. On that high end, there is not a world where Juan Soto is not getting at least $500 million. It's just how the math's going to work out. He's going to get at least 13 a year. At least 13 a year. That's 13 a year, excuse me. He's going to get at least 13 years. He's going to get at least $35 million a year. I would almost guarantee it. What is 35 times 13? That's $455 million. Right there, baseline. Baseline. That gets you right on top of Ohtani's value, somewhere in the middle of what is, some believe it's, in the 430s when it comes to how much his contract's valued. Some say it's 470. 455 is right in the middle. So you add a couple million per year, you make it 37 instead of 35. You multiply that by 13, all of a sudden we're at 481 million, and you see how quickly it can escalate. You add a 14th year, boom, you're there. Now the question is, does it get to that $600 million? And that's what they're chasing. Soto's deal could reach $600 million or possibly even a non-deferred $700 million. We're going to talk about contract value in the final segment, where I think it ultimately lands, but that's what they're searching for. What would Scott Boras and Juan Soto want more than anything else? They want that John Heyman report to hit the New York Post 3 weeks from now that says Juan Soto signs a record-setting $701 million contract, most money ever, and it is all guaranteed. It's non-deferred. It's all there. It's just completely set $700 million player, and it ain't no fugazi number like Shohei Ohtani. That's what they're going to try to put out there, and we'll see what happens in the bidding war. But you're seeing exactly what Boras is pushing for. They said the Blue Jays and Red Sox are among other teams to sit down with Soto this week, and the Yankees are due to fly out to California for their meeting on Monday. They're going to meet with Juan Soto. It says the Yankees also considered among the favorites. We'll meet with him on Monday. It talks about his stats, his crazy year. Yankees owner Hal Steinbrenner will be there, who saved Judge in free agency 2 years ago, matching the Giants' $360 million 9-year bid. That's a funny way to phrase that. Saved him from a pitiful existence with the Giants. Funny how that works. Yankees group will include GM Brian Cashman and manager Aaron Boone. See, everyone is saying their manager, their GM, and they're selling him. I mean, this is what free agency is, and there's no surprises with that. But at the end of this article, because it talks about the Yankees baseball people are said to be gung-ho to get this done. Okay. And because and even throws this one, MLB's highest revenue team certainly should have a solid chance. Okay. So yeah, pointing it out there. That's like, that feels like another sort of fed line by Scott Boras. Yankees make more money than anyone else. They should be able to agree with whatever contract I put forth. Bottom line, says it right here, though Soto has cited winning as one of his main priorities, interested teams aren't kidding themselves and believe, as is the case with most free agents, the deal will be determinative. Yeah, whoever gives Juan Soto the most money will get him. But at the same time, there is a world where multiple teams come in with similar bids. And honestly, you sort of expect that. You expect these really smart executives to come to a general consensus on what this guy's worth. And again, we'll talk about that in the final segment. But if all is equal, are we sure that Juan Soto would choose the New York Yankees if the contracts are very, very similar. If maybe the Yankees had the average annual value, so it's the highest paid player ever based on average annual value. So one way to break Ohtani's record, so he gets more than 47 million a season or whatever it is. I think it's 46 and change, I believe Shohei Ohtani's AAV comes out to, so 47. Or is it the total guaranteed money that he wants? Like there's a way that you can beat Ohtani in multiple ways, and it's just deciding which way you want your deal packaged, because either way it's going to be an absurd amount of money. Is there a world, though, where the Mets can present a case now that is so convincing, and with whatever subsequent means they might have, where Juan Soto is not only just taking the most money to play for the Mets, but he is sincerely thrilled about the idea of putting on a Mets uniform over any other team? I want to talk about why the Mets are not only the best fit for Juan Soto because of the money they can give him, but why they just overall are the team he should want to play for. We're going to go through that in just a minute. First, though, quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, if you live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And again, you're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So make sure you know exactly which bet you want, the one you're most confident in, an overwhelming favorite. Throw $5 on it. You're $150 in bonus bets if you win. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Stay up to date with all the latest in the world of sports when you check out Locked On Sports Today, streaming 24/7 on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Our next goal is to get to 11,000 subscribers, and we're within 200 of getting there. I appreciate all of you who continue to subscribe. All right, let's talk about why the New York Mets are not only the favorite to land Juan Soto, they're also the best fit. Money is obvious when it comes to Soto getting paid, right? That is a prerequisite you don't even have to address. But money is also a reason why Juan Soto should choose the Mets, because long term, he doesn't have to worry about the Mets spending around him. That's a given. Now, you look at the Yankees, you can say the same thing. They're always going to have a high payroll. But are the Yankees a team that has to dip below that Steve Cohen tax line? It's named Steve Cohen for a reason, that final tax threshold with all the penalties. The Mets are the team that is going to operate in the red every single year if they have to win a World Series. And beyond that, they're going to continue to operate however they have to win, because Steve Cohen is that rich. He's a fan first, and he wants to see this franchise have all the success. And long term, this team is his legacy. And so as a guy that has so much in his pocketbook, he's willing to lose money on it because he gets so much out of it. There is so much intrinsic value in being the owner of the New York Mets and becoming the big brother in New York City. And this is the first opportunity for him to really do that. In the beginning of his tenure, it was, all right, we're playing nice with the Yankees. Aaron Judge is a free agent. He's your homegrown superstar. We're going to sit that out. You negotiate. We're not even going to sniff on it. That's yours. Now, Yoshinobu Yamamoto is in the open market. Both teams want him. The Mets were all in, just like the Yankees were. The Yankees trade for Juan Soto a year before free agency. You don't have a claim on Juan Soto. You had him for a year. That's great. You got to make your pitch early. But the Mets have had their eyes on Juan Soto ever since Steve Cohen took over as the New York Mets owner. Because very early on in his tenure, Juan Soto hit the trade market, and it was pretty clear this guy was going to reach free agency. And you look at the landscape, the big free agent is becoming a thing of the past. We're not seeing these guys get to free agency. And when they do, it's guys like to be frank, Pete Alonso and Alex Bregman, who maybe have had their best years already. Guys that are still good, are still going to get a big deal, but not the franchise-altering free agents like Juan Soto is, like other guys have been in the past, like an Alex Rodriguez from long ago. Those guys just don't hit the market often, like Bryce Harper. This is an opportunity here. And I think the Mets are going to jump all over it, as it's been pretty clear this is their guy. This is the one they want. So they're going to spend big on him, but the fact that they can spend big around him long term, that's got to be attractive to Juan Soto. Seeing how in New York City this year, the Yankees had their best season since 2009. Which team captured the hearts of New York more this past year? Was it the Mets or the Yankees? Yankees fans, you can come back at me all you want to, because the Yankees have the history. Winning is expected. Now you could say, well, that's why you should want to be a Yankee. Okay. But what I would say is winning is treasured more for the New York Mets because it is a rarity. And so getting to the NLCS and beating the Phillies felt more significant, at least obviously from a biased Mets fans perspective, but just based on the way it was received by each fan base. Felt like that meant a little more to Mets fans than just getting back to another World Series for Yankees fans, even though it was a massive drought for the Yankees. Well, relative to their franchise success. For other franchises, not a massive drought. For the Yankees, from 2009 until now, big drought. They got there. They didn't win it. But I think long term, if you had to talk about legacy, the legacy Juan Soto can author with the New York Mets is just more significant than what he can author with the Yankees. With the Yankees, he can have an incredible career. He can go in as a Yankee in the Hall of Fame, be part of that special fraternity, be on that short list of names, right? But he's going to be, even if he spends 15 years with the Yankees, not a homegrown Yankee. He doesn't get that little extra, Derek Jeter love, right? The guy that started his career as a Yankee, ended as a Yankee. He's not Jeter. He's not Gehrig. He's not DiMaggio. Now, he could be Ruth, I guess, right? Wins 4 or 5 championships. Yeah, he might end up an inner circle Hall of Famer for the New York Yankees. But for the Mets, we're talking about GOAT. GOAT, greatest Met of all time. Literally, by signing the contract, he's on a fast track right to it, because he's going to have 14 years or 15 years, or maybe it's only 13, but regardless, he's going to have over a decade in a Mets uniform, and all those records are up for grabs for Juan Soto. All of them. And you're not chasing Ruth and Gehrig and DiMaggio and Mantle and Jeter. You're chasing Piazza, Keith Hernandez, Darryl Strawberry, David Wright, Pete Alonso, heck, Francisco Lindor. And that's another element that I think the Mets have. Sure, you can go play with Aaron Judge. You're going to be the second best. Or you play with Francisco Lindor, who was good enough to be the runner-up in the MVP this year, likely, who showed that he could deliver in all the big moments, unlike Judge, to be honest, who's going to be an incredible defender at shortstop, but also would be second best to you in the lineup. Juan Soto is going to be the best hitter on the New York Mets as soon as he signs. You want to win an MVP? Now you're going to have to go up against Shohei Ohtani in the National League, so that's going to be a little bit tough. But as far as your own team, as far as the narrative, it's a lot more wide open to be that guy, to be the face, to be the guy that gets a lot of the credit. And when you're talking about ego for a player, all of that stuff does factor in. And, of course, getting the most money. At the end of the day, if the Mets are going to sign Juan Soto, they're going to put the contract in front of them that's the largest. How is it the largest, though? That's the difference here. Because, again, the New York Yankees might give him $50 million a year for all we know. but for 10 years. And do you like that deal over what the Mets could put forth? And that's what we're going to talk about to close the show. Where does this bidding end? How much money do the New York Mets have to spend to sign Juan Soto? We'll close the show there in just a minute. First, though, quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. If you got nothing to do over the weekend, you know what you do? You pull open the Gametime app, you look at the Live Nearby tab, and you can find all the events near you, whether that's a sporting event, you want to go to an NBA game, or maybe it's a comedy show or a theater act, whatever it is, you can find it on Gametime. And to use Gametime Picks, that is a special feature they have. They'll filter out the fluff and show you only the best deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. Only the best deals are shown to you. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. If you're an everyday listener to the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. This is our texting service where you get updates from me anytime news breaks on the Mets. You can ask me questions at any time. You can also take part in our Locked On Mets signed photo giveaways. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. All right, so how much money is Juan Soto going to make in free agency? I am writing a contract and predictions article for the top 20 free agents for Just Baseball. And so I went through all these different guys, and I'm projecting out what their deal is going to be. The way I do that is I look back at recent history at the position, what these guys might be looking for, how many years, and try to find a ballpark and then just make my best educated guess. And these are guesses, right? I don't have any information telling me exactly what Juan Soto is going to get. But here's what I know. They're going to try to get the biggest number possible. They're going to try to dwarf the present day value of Shohei Ohtani's deal. How do you do that when you have a 26-year-old free agent? Years. Years are the premium that I think they're going to look for here. Because how did they do it with Bryce Harper when he was a free agent? It's all about the years. Get him to 13 years. Juan Soto, if you want to get him through his age 40 season, 14-year deal. You want to get really crazy? 15-year deal. That's the move. That covers age 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Add 10 years to it. So you're covering the rest of his 20s, all of his 30s, and his age 40 season. Now, are the New York Mets going to put forth a 15-year contract for Juan Soto? Do they have it in them? And are you cool with them doing that? If it means getting them, are you in on it? Here's what I'd say. Look at Bryce Harper right now. Bryce Harper is the test case on this. And look at how that contract is aged. Granted, he's had some injuries, but he's taken the Phillies on 2 really deep playoff runs, and I believe he has an MVP in a Phillies uniform. You look at how he's performed exceptionally well, and he's already fulfilled the first 6 years of a 13-year deal, and I don't think anyone believes that Bryce Harper is going to slow down for the next 5 years. So you're looking at years 12 and 13 where maybe there's a concern when he's 37, 38 years old. Okay, sure. The last couple years of that deal might be a little bit concerning. If you look at how they structured it, the beginning of the contract was light on money. He made more and more and more in the middle. Then it starts to tail off. You look at the final 3 years, it cuts to $23.5 million compared to the average annual value across his deal, which is $25.38 million. Juan Soto is going to make a lot more than that. But I do believe that if you stretch out this contract over 15 years, the average annual value can come down a little bit to a more reasonable number. So is he going to clear $40 million a year? I think he is. But maybe you don't have to have him clear Shohei Ohtani's average annual value if you give him all the years. Now, there's risk in that. But again, you are just worried about getting this guy signed. And if years 13 through 15 are horrible, you'll worry about that 13 years from now. Because before that, you're getting a decade of Juan Soto where he should be a top 5 hitter in baseball across that entire decade. And if you have a top 5 hitter in baseball with the best shortstop in baseball, you can win a lot in the short term and even in the long term. Here's the contract I fell on, and it's going to sound crazy, but I feel like years is what gets it done for the New York Mets. I think the Yankees might come out and they might say, all right, we're going to give you $48 million a year, and we're going to give you 12 years. That's $576 million. It's a lot. How do you beat that offer if you're the New York Mets? Yeah, you could just add 1 year on it, right? We're going to give him $48 million for 13 years. That's $624 million. But now Juan Soto is going to cost you, when it comes to average annual value, $48 million a year for your luxury tax. You can save $5 million a year on that by stretching it out to a 15-year deal. Here's what I fell on. Might sound crazy, but it's $43 million a year, 15 years, $645 million. I might be overshooting it. He might not have the offers to drive the bidding up that much. Maybe it's actually $40 million a year over 15 years. That's $600 million, right on the nose. And I could absolutely see that. I think the bidding is going to make it crazy enough where it might get beyond that $600 million. But I feel like the real difference maker that will get this done for the New York Mets compared to other teams is guaranteeing a 15th year. I think that is the place that no other team will be willing to go. And if you're the New York Mets and you are in a position where you either land him or don't because of guaranteeing his contract, and what would that even be at this point? 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. So in 2039, it's so far away. Why do fans even care? And who's the biggest fan? Steve Cohen. I just feel like that's going to be the thing. I don't know what that average annual value is. Who knows? Maybe the market isn't as robust as Scott Boras is going to lay it out to be in the New York Post through his mouthpiece, John Heyman. Maybe it's not going to be like that. Maybe the Yankees aren't going to go much beyond Shohei Ohtani's average annual value. They're going to beat it by a hair, and they're only going to go 10 years. I have no idea. If he's $38 million a year for 15 years, he's making $570. It's still a crazy contract. But I really think that the differentiating factor is going to be years. I don't think that Juan Soto signs a 13-year deal because Bryce Harper already did that. I think he's going to get 14 or 15 years, and I feel like the Mets are going to be the team that gives it to him. And I'm not going to be mad at it, whatever the number is, because ultimately, if you have Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor on your team and Steve Cohen footing the bill and building around them, because they're still going to sign pieces, I'm not convinced that they won't still sign a Pete Alonso or a Willy Adames with Juan Soto, as well as getting some pitching or getting pitching with Juan Soto. That could be it. It could just be, all right, Juan Soto replaces Pete Alonso in the lineup, and you sign Blake Snell or Max Fried, and you bring back Sean Manaea. I don't know. The Mets are going to be uber aggressive this offseason, that I believe. And I think when it comes to Juan Soto, they are going to give him an absurd amount of years. I'm banking on 15. We'll see if I'm right. That's going to be all for today's edition of Locked On Mets. Owners meeting are this week. Don't think that really indicates any big signings or trades, but it's just something to note. Whatever news comes across, I will be covering it on the show. We will continue to discuss every aspect of free agency on the show. I appreciate all of you for tuning in. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you want to follow me on social, you can do so at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. If you want to be Locked On Mets Insider, find a link in the episode description. dissects.com/Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen, your first watch every day. Now for your second watch, head over to YouTube and check out the first ever 24/7 streaming channel. Covers everything in the world of sports. Talking about Locked On Sports Today with our local hosts from each team, league-wide hosts from each league. Find Locked On Sports Today streaming 24/7 on YouTube.